this framework evaluation of social press, social context, requires situating nuclear power in broader context of society and the economy to understand the traditional cost-benefit analysis for us and relies on flat-head logical optimism and collaborate all those stakes are environmental problems, controls and energy system, electrical information, spiritual, social brother, energy, modern history, social quality, important social analysis, modern energy system, because easy to establish it, contemporary social analysis, the ability to capture the you can work technological best represented by the unlawful boxes, nuclear power, the modern energy, risk of risk, planets come without, let's say, public examination, upland, social economic, ecological, regime operation, the premises of current energy paradox are in critical study, part 2 of the nuclear renaissance. We are in the middle of global nuclear renaissance, corporate propaganda, Marxist prize, social change, order, shut down, democratic liberation, about alternative energy features, Washington 16, that nuclear power, climate change, hydro, rapid dirty, dangerous, the entire central possible, the new base systems, other gravity, drops in price, renewable energy, massive rise, efficiency, reliability, equivalence, back technology, battery breakthroughs. It's George here today, complaining that new power, barrel, supplying base powers that unless you're possible at all, environmental interest, decentralized, all possible, and new centers of renewables, spending billions of dollars, profit, dying reactors, local productive reactors, inevitably melt down and blow up billions, essentially accelerating, battery production, distribution, necessary result, impacts it, organization, though, wind and solar, derail the corporate industry, according to the corporate media, which is these renewables, decentralized energy systems, by very much society, and at the heart of this renaissance is a drive to colonize the country, sustain our nuclear addiction. Whitman, 11, the nuclear industries and their parties have been anytime is currently the continent where their nuclear powers as at least nuclear powers are represented the problems of supply and export not for hundreds of children African country the government pretty much Japanese Russian industrial are mining within African countries and nuclear power is justified through energy framing through emergency framing this creates a nuclear state of potential danger nuclear danger deep red as a paper remote cataclysm which forms cost benefit analysis creates warming core 11 the nuclear 11 benefits from global warming this is a legacy of significant nuclear industry are environmental benefits of spreading environmental swingware issues when you do the mining, the ecological conflict, storm decommissioning, and waste or health subsidies, consideration of the climate change, the urgency, climate change, so the nuclear state of exception, which in turn is veracity, human-centric global warming, and the nuclear state of exception bleeds into all aspects of society, provides a model for authoritarian decision making that privileges, technocratic exploitation, excludes viewpoint of everyday citizens, legitimates oppression. Core 11 dear is no fundamental status, reason as more than nuclear we get play, many people are the nations to possibility, importance of social nuclear energy, the climate culture, the authoritarian, that is simple rate or several human environmental science, centralized the bureaucracy, centralized the organization of the exception, access power of the system or organization, the virus by the system for running the production for by much of the central, required for this garden is mental nuclear energy, music from city that emergency justified by permanent threat, supplies to restrictions to the freedom of the surveillance or creates justification, mobilization, police, and military peaceful demonstration of power and Japanese on-truth claims the nuclear state, the nuclear benefits, rest practices, evidence that influence spreads beyond the nuclear discourse and position through state related stratagems and nuclear power reinforces all levels of social division. It's centralized technocratic nature, legitimacy views throughout society across all levels of scientific, now smart at all 80 nuclear powers by virtue of the large centralized overhead electricity and on experts was a single control state power solar and all that subject to nuclear power simultaneously brought about the power responsibility to all the state power. This state is structural time for corporate expansion of our profit making projects, most suitable for optimization of decentralized energy sources to local profit sales. The science is not value free, completely theoretical, feelings, whether earth and risk of patriarchy. Other major social structures are state capital, mutually forced we all one another. We are the state bureaucracy, women are discriminating against viewers of the job and restructure these state corporations, last major relations superior to serve their own domination. So the workforce domination is another fundamental factor only was seen from the orientation to the exploitation of structure so rather than army understanding nuclear power is component of the system. And this view of nuclear power is a quick fix, equals as the global economy and energy system perpetuating massive inequality. Basically, juice code Mars like 11 the global energy industries under framework conditions resulting in the growth of existing qualities of supreme market legitimacy. Already partly practicing the practice reduce to increase revenues, the welfare of Poland and United Society, never fitted especially the nuclear substance not take account the overall returns to substance, increase of power production, use of base power, which helps support discourse part through the advocacy of plant text, all countries have to production nuclear power countries that are currently produce power from nuclear reactors will be phasing out all nuclear power. Lucas 12. The only way to eliminate this is to phase out nuclear power altogether. Some countries, less than Germany, the government has had to go with the phase out of many forcing Germany sourcing 100% of power produced from the renewables in 2030 and voting affirmative endorses the social nuclear power only instrumental for the energy system spillover broader systemic problems without being co-opted. Martin et al. 84 object percentages include decentralized nuclear that involves both actually soft power activities show existing structures data governments on to cycles only when it is shocking to pressure from the community, nuclear power scale, small scale, vulnerable point structure, capitalism, so forth. They do organization and organized these people at the same time challenge the course behind nuclear power not force work can achieve effective change within the system, which is wisdom structure, such strategy of interaction, structure that goes but way beyond the nuclear phase out, solves immediate harms to nuclear power and enables a cultural shift towards renewables. Empirics prove Klein 14D, latest future renewable energy systems, global transition, whatever renewable is technically economically feasible by 2030 renewables faster, cheaper than nuclear, and invest in nuclear versus true renewables situation will keep up the renewable station president, dramatically lower than nuclear to those who live work next to them, especially before governments are transitioning from nuclear, a full nuclear phase out of Germany's taking nuclear movement completed, the conditions for the renewables revolution have been no energy transition to debate without a left side to get off nuclear use hazards and collective action is key. Interstate competition means every country, each country will only force it the other does. Again, Hoffer and Brennan's 11, 18 nuclear power movement, country the only responsible for one country ban nuclear power, multiple conflicts, active in different countries, the EU, progress and increasing towards common policy, EU policy settlement, general member states or local tools there, on top of the branch policy to do it, differentiating interesting countries and reject spec debates altogether. They're infinite. There's never a amount that we can possibly specify. And every time we meet there and check the last to specify more means, but this one to be 6 minutes long.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Project. Let's talk about Glover. He says we have to discuss energy in a social context. If we're to do that, what framing do you set up for the round? Like, what are we gonna talk about social context?
So our argument is that the way in which we should understand nuclear power is sort of through more social impacts. Glover says we have to.
Right. So I understand social impacts are important, but it's a question of like how do we weigh between social impacts, so to speak?
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Are you asking me how we weigh between?
Right. I'm asking you to set up a standard for weighing in the round.
So the Glover evidence says that we have to analyze nuclear energy in a way that sort of challenges the sort of technological euphoric vision that nuclear power is super dope.
All right.
He says
where does he say that? Where does he justify, or where does he state that we think nuclear energy is super dope?
Yet contemporary discourse, instead of social analysis, the field seems to be captive of euphoric technological visions, best represented by unflappable optimists of nuclear power.
Okay. So, all right. So if there are optimists of nuclear power, that is a bad thing.
Our argument is yes, because nuclear power is super bad.
All right, cool. Where do you justify that?
It's the whole app.
Cool.
Nuclear
So
power.
I isolate two distinctions in the app. All right, tell me if I'm wrong. One is that countries are colonized by other countries which have nuclear power, and two, there are a lot of social inequalities that occur in the nuclear industry. Am I correct?
No.
Okay.
So
am I missing something?
the first thing, you're like colonies or countries colonize other people. That's not really 100% true. The women evidence indicates that the desire to have global nuclear power is sort of the colonizing drive of sort of more wealthy.
All right, cool. Let's talk about the Wasserman evidence. So Wasserman talks about.
There's like a bunch of other problems with the other thing.
Okay, cool. Alright, let's talk about the car evidence, the second one. It says that it legitimizes oppression. The car is talking about the nuclear weapons industry. Where does the app solve for the nuclear weapons industry?
The car evidence is not at all talking about the nuclear weapons industry. He says, first off, number one, answer your question, even if it were, he says there's no fundamental difference between atoms for peace and atoms for war. Nuclear industries began to play a key part in several nation security policies. His argument is there's no distinction. Second, he talks about the nuclear energy industry and how because it is such a sort of sustained security risk, he uses the term, a perpetually endangered central source of energy.
Let's talk about Klein 14. Klein 14 is a high schooler. She cited a Stanford study. So what is the methodology in the Stanford study? She obviously did not conduct this study to talk about why it's economically feasible. Do you know how it's technically or economically feasible?
So Klein 14 wrote a published book.
All right, so she cited a Stanford study. Is there a methodology about this?
Let's start at the top. She is a published author, not a high schooler. The second thing is the Stanford's. I don't have a methodology.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's talk about the Martin et al. evidence right before. Can you explain why a social critique would be enough to vote app?
So the Martin evidence explains that sort of when we criticize nuclear power, that is sort of, he refers to it as the vulnerable point in sort of larger structures of, he says, capitalism, the state, and sort of other general structures. His reasoning for that is because it is sort of this glaring contradiction in between the these kinds of structures call for like everything's cool, everything's fine.
Cool.
Versus.
Let's talk about. Okay, I'm gonna start from. Your Martin et al. Evidence talks about some patriarchal relationships. Why or sorry, your.
Yeah, that's Martin et al.
Yeah. So how does the nuclear industry create this?
So
where do you solve for patriarchal relationships?
There's a couple warrants. The first is that the nuclear industry sort of has career and job structures that discriminate against women. The second sort of broader warrant is that the corporations that deal with nuclear energy sort of deploy these patriarchal relations to.
All right. Also, cool. I want to talk about these corporations and these technological optics. I get your point. Okay. I want to talk about these corporation technological optics. Who are they? I don't want you to say, oh, they're just these optimists or they're what we think right now. I want you to give me specific examples or a scenario in which this is one person. I don't want you to go for like a 1 hour argument where it's just like everyone's a technological optimist. Okay. I want to know who these people are so I can return to the app without you co-opting all of them.
Wait, so you want me to name all the people?
I don't want you to name all the people. I want you to give me an example of what that could look like.
All right, so like the WNA evidence is a pretty common nuclear lobby thing. The nuclear lobby argument is that the way in which we're presented sort of studies that favor nuclear power are sort of cherry picked by the nuclear industry. When you Google nuclear power good, argument is the first like 70 results that show up are put there on purpose by people who have a lot of money and power. I can give you like specific names of people. For example, all the time.
2:30. Okay, the order. Oh, let me send this first.
How many sheets of paper doing?
6.
Y'all need more paper. I have like a lot.
Probably. Yeah, I need 2 more sheets.
2.
Thank you.
If you don't read all 6, I'm talking your speak.
In outrounds? Okay.
So 6 off case.
6 off case.
Is there any particular order on case?
Solvency and Wi-Fi line. Are we good?
Yep, I am good.
Moral uncertainty means you're correct. 16 that's possible. 12b. Moral uncertainty that are present actually confused. We're considering there's great value in our ability to recognize future the future accordingly ensuring that there be value. You know, best way to increase the future value. No acquisition. Mistakes. There implicit approval to action. So like moral responsibility. That's seen. Unlike the all government policy makes sure that they're third party when they authorize private action is not repeated acquisition. Being authorized action never becomes obscure when the government formally bids private action. But you know, for the coverage of that sacrifice, minimizing excess force. Exception was a value life claims. 8 points that is there's still value life to everyone is still alive. There are people who are partial life considered drugs in life, which are obviously removed by being the point is that loss of value is reversible. All exceeds time meaning for passes after the potentially begin lives after the value pass now. And second, now even if the one of those matters compared to question nuclear power will clearly harm volume life mass starvation, conflict, all economic political checks on mass probably result in more harm and also controls the influence your global evidence because it says that your global evidence is something that we are talking about social context. We argue that extinction is the greatest we're just impact from your global evidence about what social inequalities matter most and what impacts the first capital. Countries are not involved in the production of nuclear power to clarify they will limit, prohibit, or the power production of nuclear power, nor directly fund, subsidize, or in any other way use nuclear power themselves. Solves the app nuclear power is prohibitively, solves the app because it says that governments or nuclear lobbies are supported by the government and controls the internal arguments. Because the government cannot subsidize anything, then the nuclear lobby cannot exist because the nuclear lobby cannot exist and their evidence law to be technological optimists. Now investors look for short-term gain. The nuclear power is long-term and capital investment. So the free market would avoid that. But draws it. One of the objectives to achieve with privatization and public utilities to make them operate conditions that are more commercial. commercial policy, adopting privatization policy would limit these utilities to the commercial mode of minimum their strong represent short-term return on investment. This way, the capital investment plans such as nuclear power will not be favored by utilities and planning to construct these types of without government support. And nuclear power is a competitive, subsidizing, supporting just waste money in the government to ensure clean for other accidents. Got to 60 in the United States and the country in which power generation is not a government function. The government can be able to decide whether nuclear power is economic law, higher speed, high new class of mineral in the United States for more than 2 decades. And the nuclear power is not being attacked. The next counterplan. Counter projects. All African countries are African private uranium mining on their lands. All African 15 governments around the world have called Africa uranium mining. That sells a specific advantage that the specific country talk about calling the only evidence of African countries are their lands are being exploited, which means that this solves the advantage. You don't let them go for any other arguments. You should go for what is specifically said on the case of African countries, not just that. Only nuclear power can stop catastrophic war. 115 the open letter appointing conservation committees, everything added list of the option nuclear power to study or to consider to solar wind solar also called the green power fossil wind power or wind solar power while the core of the country resource options there is not a significant shortage of the power sources in the economic full time of the fossil the advantage of nuclear power is no shortage suitable sites so regardless of the power replace fossil fuels about 15 years old the cherries will allow nuclear from full creates people who do in France when you pass it carbon free power over century and renewables like the renewable the nuclear power to be effective. That's Boomer and August 2nd. Nuclear power large source of carbon free energy. Wind solar smaller. Putting this together, you get a move for reducing carbon dioxide emission, predicting nuclear waste and scale of the wind solar carbon that just wastes after a possible thing. Makes sense for there been letting the nuclear power shut down. The dirty natural last week. The retirement of which why when you gain renewables wind and solar can be scale up and off to the loss of reactors of nuclear case. Then it would end up burning more nuclear gas emissions. Would cut the card there and global warming is definitely causing such that sharp 10 14 climate change the most nuclear energy. That's led to an increase in attraction that's flow displaced by because of a rising sea level, short climate change, that's all natural systematic disease that isolates as bills that the planet all the impacts leads more wars in other countries can be for research. Europe would need a fracture because of bird migration, Africa most instability and the Middle East loss of food and water. See, I should have the water disease report. It's a climate change all the future about occurring right now. Something we've said critical time is going to come. Are we getting the world going to turn off drugs which with countries ready and have a lot of borders controlled by arms starting to domestic power water from back with nuclear attacks so that to occur that economic development power from the entirety of the app and church the app because says that the situations which cause these social inequalities will be caused when there are disparities and when the poor and the rich will have conflicts over things like resources and economic scarcity, so the rich will oppose their will more on them. Now just that. Planet creates a shift towards increasing consumption of fossil fuels. Course 11. Japan's issue of possible more reactive power temperature will lead to 300 kW per hour by temperature release that would create a 49 increase in electricity by wind solar and geothermal impacts Japan will allow import coal LNG to optional to reduce your emissions and skip the next coal plants to affect people across the same 12 up to 370 plants across the import there not just for 74 million people live in 3 miles of these sailing plants. The studies and the least little much environmental justice that made you just not really fast everything the environment player and the only secret that they have to be older out the US in the world, especially in communities color classes just from that low communities coming to culture color and next part expect the part there cold pills but that's more people than nuclear power folks and the idea of nuclear power being the one that's used 11 cold pills but that's more people than for you energy reduction after air pollution close to 8 kilos and 29 hours as well eventually do you die due to radiation sources and correlate that's a much more large control and nuclear disaster they all take the to be under report by mainstream media in the West air pollution toxic contamination and wherever pollution from the world coal plants and all the finance roughly a billion cars continued which I was the alpha scope magnitude because which I was the alpha scope magnitude because it creates more social inequalities and creates a clear continuing harm between the rich and poor and the owners of coal plants. And we'll go to case really quick. Oh, start on the line by line and the Wasserman evidence. One of your articles referring to the arguments made in New York Times. They're not arguments about corporate sphere, but just faulty business. Wasserman 16 New York Times published the Saturday article last week that lends the green power for the countries are facing. It's so complicated interactive because the detailed response is not about the corporate agenda, but rather about what that specific author said. Now, two Wassermans and anti-nuclear propaganda said behold it to the same level question when you consider evidence of this register for a specific example and a fact analysis and a broad generic sense for the corporate industry being bad. I.e., if we feel that nuclear power is probably going to stop warming, why nuclear power is key to any sort of electricity. That's probably specific acts of this instead of generic evidence. Now, the core evidence, your evidence about the nuclear industry and all nuclear evidence of social inequalities caused by the nuclear industry. Your evidence about the nuclear weapons industry. I can't solve that. This is the prediction. Nuclear power is former energy produced by electrons are actually capable of producing alternate sources of nuclear power or power, especially by electricity. Therefore, commonly used nuclear power is the most predictable common use definition of nuclear power, which means that we are going to solve, which means that you cannot solve this. Even if the industries are linked, that is the reason why the existence of the nuclear weapons industry will always create some sort of problems. Now, go to the second argument on case. Terminal defense, plasma center, the root cause of the energy, control by media and government. It's not solvency. Sorry, the second argument on the case doc. Terminal defense, the primary center, the root cause of energy controlled by media and government. It's the old issue, nothing from the clean issue, the current issue, clean energy, the solvency after as a version, which returns to all. So that's OCI 15D. For every $1, the industry's been lobbying to get to $190. So the oil gas is the only one that influence possible industry. The regulated clean energy stuff to return. The solar industries, so control by capital industries, minimal transfer, excessive minerals, for state the news 14 happening, kind of that was hard for gas in the oil production, which we gas creates with adequate solar and ability to fight, change and reduce environmental toxins, the industry become more, and not less opaque when it comes to sustainability and manufacturing. Also, your climate evidence is really out of the street. It's not statewide, Germany created increases emissions, and you heard specific examples like Japan over and empirics over just general statements and over general statements about a nuclear renewable revolution. Let me cut the cards.
Yes, please.
And delete everything. So can you tell me where you marked in on the pollution it said like coal plants just unfortunately affect people of color, names 12, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you mark the renewables link on the warming.
Yeah.
Just in general, don't say cut the card there. That's not helpful. Say what you marked it, like mark that, or you can say cut the card at, but just like tell me the last word you said. So like, well,
yeah.
It's not really like it's easier to trusting that you're saying the right place after the fact.
Okay. Alright, so it should be the right file if there's only 2 data sets in there. 3.
Yeah. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
What was this is probably
Good?
Yeah.
Status of the counterplans.
Conditional. I'll go for one of the 2 on hard.
Okay. The first counterplan. Where does the Gottfried evidence say that running nuclear power plants require subsidies?
Sorry, what?
Where the Gottfried evidence? Where does it say that running nuclear power is power plants cause subsidies?
We argue that we have to subsidize and support waste for accidents. For example, all nuclear reactors have to use subsidies.
All right, give me a line in the Gottfried evidence that says maintaining nuclear power plants and not just building them requires subsidies.
Fine. You consider that as an analytic.
Wait, hold on. So your argument, the Gottfried evidence says the
Gottfried-
fact that no new plants have been built in the United States for more than 2 decades demonstrates that nuclear power has not been an attractive investment because they're super expensive to build. And then you're like, that also means they're super expensive.
Wait, so I think
to
the argument here isn't specifically about government subsidies in that sense. The privatization counterplan essentially says that the government should not subsidize any sort of nuclear power, so they can't control the nuclear lobbying. That is what the internally to the 1AC harms are.
All right.
So it argues that if private investors want to invest, they
counterplan.
can't invest.
The next counterplan.
Yeah.
It just solves mining. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. The warming disad. The Waldman evidence says 75 scientists said that nuclear energy is an idealistic option. Why does that not bite our criticism of like cherry-picked scientists?
We don't. What?
So
All right.
one of
so
the
I
argument
think,
is
I
that
think,
there
okay.
are technological optimists
Right,
who are
okay.
cherry picked
So
by the
I think
industry,
this debate.
and you're like
is-
75
Okay,
dudes say
right.
it's good,
Okay.
and therefore
I think it goes the other way too, Evan. You can't just say they're technological optimists. We can argue that they're technological pessimists, which is what the 1AC is
Well,
arguing.
we
okay?
also have like
Which is why we say that specific evidence is much more likely than just
Plummer
random
evidence.
persuasion arguments.
Brad Plummer is an editor at Vox. Our authors are like PhDs and MAs. Why is he more qualified to talk about these things?
What are you talking about? Oh, the Vox evidence here?
Yeah.
Oh, we argue that these are based on empirics.
What empirics?
We argue that, for example, if any country wants to shift towards renewables completely, they need coal or any sort of other
No, I'm
supplier.
talking about the
Wait, look. So let me
Plummer
explain.
evidence.
Let me explain. For example, Germany or Japan, if they want to shift towards renewables, they first have to increase their emissions to support those
Where is
renewables.
that in the Plummer evidence?
We would argue that the Plummer evidence uses specific examples. Which
All right,
is
well,
general
I would
data.
not. The shift disad.
Because it says
The
many
Corsic
states-
evidence.
It says
hold
many
on.
states have struggled
Hold
with
on.
this.
The Corsic evidence in the shift disad is about Japan right after Fukushima, how they were like struggling to replace things because they were like rushed. Why does that apply to everything else?
Well, if the app's supposed to shut down a nuclear reactor, I'm guessing that they would have to switch to something else.
Well, seems like a problem with phase out. So the counterplan is to not directly fund, subsidize, or in any other way use nuclear power themselves.
Right.
So you will just defend that they'll stop subsidizing and funding it.
The argument says that
I want to know
should
in
not-
a sentence what exactly the counterplan defends.
I think the first sentence makes it pretty clear. They ought
Just
not
use nuclear power
They ought
themselves.
not involve themselves in the production of nuclear power. They should just step away from it. And if private companies want to regulate, they can.
Cardinals season. I have a minute left.
They didn't want that game. There's two out.
Are they?
Yeah, they're tied. They're either. They lost yesterday, so maybe it's not sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were.
They're only half a game back.
They're only half a game behind the first place team, but they're tied with the second place team, but ahead in the loss column. So they would. If playoffs start today, they'd be But they're kind of like in a three-way tie. I mean, basically a three-way tie to see who they can go up. I think the Cardinals season has been like not as good as they're used to, but like mediocre, but like not a disaster. But the Cubs season's been exceptional. That's the Wednesday Northwestern's season's been a disaster. That we lost to directional Western teams that we lost like I guess we lost to Western Michigan and then Illinois State in the first game. So that's after last year, like being ranked and like going to the Tuesday bowl game. I'm not sure we have the quarterbacks back. It was a freshman last year. I'm not sure. Cardinals have some injuries. So the Dodgers.
You're sending it.
So,
What's the order?
the order will be the case. So the order will be the case, the warming disad,
Case in that order.
I haven't named it yet, so pause the second longer.
it's a case, warming,
Yeah. Dirty weather tax.
I also have the
Case and warming.
case warming, the pull shift, the Africa counterplan, and then the, like, I don't know what to call it, the other counterplan.
Wait, so case, warming, coal, African counterplan, and the other counterplan.
Okay, so let me just one more time. So case, warming, disad, bullshit, disad, African counterplan, no fun.
Wait, what can it be?
No.
Sorry, you guys are both like.
I'm looking at your like sticker.
Oh, yeah.
Liner.
Warming system.
All right, we
That'd
good?
be cool.
You have conceded the warning decline evidence that a shift towards rather than a shift away from nuclear lobby is a shift towards renewable energy. That is a sort of cultural war. There are two empirical examples. The first is from Germany, where they're anti-renewable or they're anti-nuclear sort of shift caused them to shift culturally towards renewables. The other example in the card is from Denmark. Next, the Wasserman evidence. You say this criticized the New York Times, but that is only one part of the article. It also criticizes sort of general things. Also, you say he's a propagandist hippie. One, he has an MA. He's probably not lazy. Two, he's an investigative journalist. Means this is he's an investigative journalist. Means that you should probably take his word. Three, he makes warrants and critical samples. Means you should probably not just rule him out because of his background. The core evidence you say it's about the nuclear weapons, but that is just not the case. Read the evidence. It's specifically nuclear power. The OCI evidence. One, this just says that coal plants lobby, but it's not the same as having direct apparatuses within the government. Two, to the nuclear power also lobby, which means it's not unique. The Nunez evidence, the solar industry is capitalist, but our argument is not that capitalist drive is necessarily bad, but the way in which these sort of nuclear security risks that are framed around the nuclear industry are bad because they cause a sort of justification of any bad things to avoid shutting down nuclear at all costs. That is the first Quar evidence, which means that this is unique to nuclear power, not anything else. Also, the Nunez evidence just says that solar manufacturing is really sketchy about how they manufacture things, not that they're sort of have this capitalist drive. The warming dissat. First, the Wasserman evidence says says that the only reason there was not a shift in the past is because they were missing this sort of crucial internal link, which the battery technology has now been developed. This postdates your Walden evidence, which takes out the warming dissat on face. The B point is that the Klein evidence is empirical, that there is a sort of cultural shift that causes people to shift towards this. You should frame this debate in terms of the cultural shift because it affects sort of future generations as opposed to just immediate calculus, which means it is a higher probability. Next, their evidence is propagated by monopolist companies to convince new people that nuclear power is a little bit forward and value governments prioritize nuclear power, which dams effective renewables from the get-go. Port 11. Energy renewables means nuclear energy renewables really nuclear power is capable instead of all options become complicit. Countries should often term that supply of plentiful electricity supply and give part of nuclear or letting it market cheap lead to cheaper. Also, the plumber evidence you said renewables also link, but and that is from a box. That is from a box in your editor. You should prefer our sort of specific warming authors as opposed to just these sort of random assertions. Also. Warming is constructed, impact turns the dissat, the fact that nuclear energy can solve warming is constructed, impact turns the dissat, and also means it has no uniqueness to the shift. There will be no shift in nuclear power. The Klein evidence has conceded more that empirically, when we shift away from nuclear, then it causes a cultural shift, caused by the sort of framing question, the sort of cultural framing question here. B point. This is your example. The Harris evidence is only about Japan not being able to shift away from nuclear power fast enough because they didn't have time to build them after the Fukushima evidence. But phase out solves this because it takes a very long time, which means we're able to shift. The shift argument is also just nuclear. A propaganda argument is that the reason nuclear power says you have to keep us in place because otherwise you will make things infinitely worse. That is that is the first Martin et al. Evidence. The African counterplan, permutation, do both. Also, conditional counterplans are a voting issue. They skew out strategy for the 1AR, and then means we are controls the key internal into fairness. The second counterplan, permutation, do both. Just stop government involvement while phasing out solves both the net benefits. The government evidence doesn't say that subsidizing them is keeping them in business, which means that they still continue and sort of be securitized in the same way.
You just didn't read the last piece of evidence?
Yeah,
right. So, which one is that?
Oh, sorry. The last piece of evidence is just board as well. So the only card that was read is the board card.
Okay. Oh, so the last two pieces of evidence, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like your doc copied twice. Is that what happened?
Yeah, it was just a mistake. So just the last two. The only one read.
So these two, right?
Well, that's just one card.
Yeah. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I had 230, I think.
Why did they make it so cool?
I had 230.
Yeah.
So the workers don't get lazy. Stay moving.
So we don't stay in the Starbucks all day, or the Taco Bell.
Why wasn't there? In that cabinet?
I play darts.
Where one
Just
doors?
like darts. Like a really big dartboard. That's what I know. Whiteboard TV.
Narnia.
Oh, you're right, it is Narnia. Oh, fuck. I should have played on that. Should have played on Narnia.
Such a crazy idea.
Narnia?
If kids like hesitant to go, you could take a rose scented soap bar and dip it in chocolate and make pop on it. And that Turkish delight stuff that the kids it's the worst stuff ever.
I've never had it.
It's like a rose flavored jelly.
What was the argument of the worst
covered in
you said about
chocolate.
why cultural shift
It's
occurs?
just like it tastes
So our
like
argument is that the sort of
They have it-
cultural shift argument is more relevant than individual examples because it sort of determines what will happen into the future as opposed to what has just happened like in the past.
Okay. The
Because
forward
you make a
evidence. The
predictive
forward
claim.
evidence just says that nuclear energy does not allow the development of renewables, right?
It makes a lot of claims.
Okay.
First, nuclear. The reason that we say things like the shift argument, stuff like that, is the nuclear industry says no. The second is that there's sort of a financial opportunity cost. The third is
Wait, the financial opportunity cost?
Yeah.
Can you explain that argument?
Yeah. So the reason that that renewables are not built now is because the industries that require or that use, or I guess the energy industry uses nuclear power and puts sort of all its beans in that jar. Argument is when you shift away from that, they have nowhere to go but solar power, which is just cheaper than coal. The third argument is there's a political opportunity cost. So politicians are like, no, don't go to solar power, go to coal power because we are sort of lobbied by people. Argument is a shift to nuclear power sort of changes the way in which the interaction works. And the last argument is that there are constraints in upgrading the grid because right now there's no incentive to do that. So if there were a long-term phase out like the app defends, then grid changing would not be an issue.
Okay. I'm gonna send the one part on 3, okay?
There's an article that the wireless earbuds will cause brain damage. Pretty bad.
Why is that?
Because it emits microwave radiation and it's right next to your brain. Because apparently the part that sits in your ear is the part that emits the Bluetooth signal. It's pretty scary. I don't think I'm gonna get them, but I don't know if I have a choice.
Well, just take the question.
It's true.
Do the same file. It's just gonna be a subheading called 2N, or I'm ready to read the 2 cards. The order is gonna be an overview. The overview on the NC, then the privatization counterplan, then the the privatization counterplan, the Africa counterplan.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yes, you just started over.
Yeah. Okay. Overview on the NC.
And the NC is
like
the
Boston framework.
Okay.
Yeah, Boston. Okay. The privatization counterplan. The Africa counterplan. The coal shift argument. Warming. And the case. I'll signpost. It's just gonna be kind of different places.
Okay.
Oh man.
Everybody good? The Bosch method is going to be the framing issue for the round. If you consider that extinction comes first, any risk of an extinction impact is the reason why you pull the trigger here now. This is how you evaluate the round. The counterplan is going to be a tiebreaker between the solvent. If the counterplan is able to solve the F, it's going to be a tiebreaker. You should the warming section function as a tiebreaker. The warming should function as a tiebreaker between solvents between the counterplan and the F. Now, if there is any risk of extinction, you should vote on the you should vote next for you should vote next for extinction. Now, you should vote next for extinction. The privatization counterplan. You have put a bunch of misunderstood the privatization counterplan here now. You said permit you both while do it while facing it. That is not true. As long as we win that, the permit net benefit is that nuclear reactors still exist in the world of the status quo, that still exists in the world of the world of the counterplan. That is fine. That's the reason why our net benefit is the warming. Just as long as we prove that nuclear reactors are able sufficiently stop warming. That is the reason you can vote negative on the warming dissent. Now, your interpretation says that phasing out means that we can do it while phasing. That is not true because that still shuts down reactions in the long run. Your Godfrey argument does not have to do anything with the counterpart. The counterpart solvency is specifically about how if we shift from private, if we shift from public country, from countries owning them as public facilities to private facilities, then people will not have the government allowing to influence these nuclear lobbying agendas. You have not made this argument. We made this interlink argument to your AC. You say that the government controls and cherry picks certain scientists or technological optimists so that it controls the nuclear lobbying in some sort of way. We argue that private companies are going to be more likely to doing that anyways, and the draws evidence is also conceding said that private companies may not find capital investments in places as economically valuable, in which case that they will not spend as much time lobbying for. They'd rather spend time doing other things. Which means that you can see that these arguments is why something internal links. Yeah, all the advantages are based on the fact that the government lobbying is a bad thing. How do we increase technological optimism and sort of technocracy that allows for some sort of party scaler because they allow that because they touch on nuclear power in any way to legitimize any sort of oppression. We argue that we take that out, we sever the internal link and allow for us to solve warming. On the Africa minded counterpart, we're not going for it, so we'll concede the permutation, but it does not matter anyways because it does not matter anyways. Now, it does not matter anyways. Now, the conditional strategy is to excuse that strategy. No, it does not skew that strategy. In fact, no, it does not skew that strategy. The counter-interpretation is that the next maybe I have one multiple axiom, but I have to pick one. The multiple can read two conditional counterparts, so they go for one and the two and R. It solves the offenses because their counter-interpretation is it solves strategy too. There's only two conditional arguments. You only made two permutations anyway. There are also the athletes. They plan the perm option as well. Perms check this value. We just return the perms to counterpart, which means that's all. That solves back. Also solves average arguments. Which I will go for one of them, which means that it is not skew your strategy. We always go for one of them. It's also not impacted to a voting issue, which means that if it's a voting issue, which means it's not impacted to a voting issue here, which means that at least it should be dropped the argument. If anything, which means both counterparts go away. First drop the argument because first returns to conditional counterparts. It solves. We all remember returns arguments in the future about saying conditional items and specific to why really conditional counterparts better. As long as I don't need the counterparts when the warming dissent should outweigh. Anyways, now warming dissent. Also on the shift dissent, really quickly on coal shift. All these arguments were defensive arguments. It says that we will shift away from nuclear, or how Japan did not shift fast enough, or the phase out solves this, or that it's propaganda. These are defensive arguments. There wasn't a lecture debate, which is the reason it doesn't matter. Anyways, extinction outweighs the impact of the coal dissent. Warming. There are a couple key arguments here. On the warming dissent. The thesis of the argument is that only nuclear power can solve. The thesis of the argument is that only nuclear power can solve warming. How that leads to or even if there's a renewable shift there, or they will all be contingent on nuclear power. Anyways, you do not respond to the evidence. The last evidence that warming is inevitable. Now the key framing argument here is on the debate is that you have to see that the Europe passes gap are inevitable if warming occurs. You argue that Europe passes, but social inequalities are going to occur no matter what. Because things like resource scarcity or economic competition is always going to justify poor versus rich, or social inequalities between the upper class and the lower class will justify all the company you want to see either that the government will able to justify anything in order to prevent warming, or the government will wage wars against other countries, that which means that's going to severely outweigh your act on two ways. One is you need to if your impacts are solving warming is the only way to prevent these impacts. 3 point is that even if the act solves warming will trigger these impacts later, which is the reason you cannot vote on the act. It's not unique. 3 point is that the third argument is that extinction is going to outweigh any sort of after that's the Dosch evidence, and how it creates more structural harm anyways. Now line by line, let's go line by line. Extending Wallman evidence is that nuclear power can solve catastrophic warming. We say that you say battery technology. That's not true because Wallman evidence makes a specific argument about intermittency. Yes, batteries could be made, but they have to be reliant on the fact that the batteries they have to be reliant on the fact that they can generate power from something else. If we win that they get their intermittency, then you kind of support these batteries. It does not matter independently. Independently battery technology doesn't exist in the FLS. Once you see German battery foreign batteries return to low charge acid reactions, more common cause of failure. Japan battery failures the cars 5 cars with 13 miles per hour. Most of their city of batteries navigate full charge sulfation, which means that it does not exist now. Your evidence is going to get extended with the Jordan the batteries I'm talking about. That is not true. Call for the evidence about Tesla batteries. That is car batteries. Well, is the reason why any sort of car manufacturing batteries links it to the this is also a defensive argument that says that you can see the evidence that says warming will be sufficient to solve nuclear reactors will be sufficient to solve warming. Now you see that cultural shift arguments. No, you should specificity arguments. You have to see the argument that both you read technological pessimism arguments, you read technological optimism arguments. There's no way to differentiate between them. them, which means as the judge, your obligation is to vote on specific evidence on what scientists say. Now, the next argument is that said that you say that nuclear power will not prevent warming. That's the forfeit evidence. I'm not sure. Your evidence says that there's a trade-off between nuclear renewables. That is not the argument. Nuclear renewables cannot generate enough. They need nuclear power to support that. Now, if we win that nuclear power once anyway, that is sufficient reason why renewables won't solve, because that's a woman evidence. Intermittency takes out your perfect evidence. Now, on the flip evidence, yes, it's from loss. It doesn't matter. It's just specific examples about why there is a shift. Your Denmark, Germany evidence is not from empirical examples. You have to see the example that Germany lost coal. Warming is inevitable, which is the reason why intrinsic impacts any risk of a dissent means you vote on extinction, and the absent facts are inevitable.
I have a minute left. What was the argument for the absent facts being inevitable?
That was made in the 1 and 2 end.
What was the argument?
The argument was that the sharp mechanical evidence indicates that there can lead to economic competition and resource scarcity as a cause of warming. We argue that those trigger conflicts between the social inequality that the app justifies.
Wait, so this is a turns case argument. What does that mean it's inevitable?
All right, so the argument is that if warming is going to occur, then your facts are inevitable because they will be triggered.
So this is a turns case argument. Okay, it'll be the counterplan, the warming dissent.
Counterplan, warming.
Like an overview with like case stuff.
Is there no document?
Oh no, it is the 2AR.
So what?
So,
why does that matter?
what?
You had new cards. Like you never just gonna have new cards to support your by extending an argument by answering something said.
Anyway, case warming TA counterplan.
What's the order again?
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
What? Hold on to that. Or what's the order?
Counterplan.
Counterplan.
Warming.
So case counterplan warming.
Yeah.
Case, counterplan, warming.
I know what species is. I'm like David, where I think it's which is cross-sex, but I think it's
Alright, you ready? Yep.
Risk of offense for the app means you affirm you concede a decline in classification evidence that we take a culture shift away from nuclear power. The argument is that we sort of resolve the problems with a securitization of nuclear power that you talk about. The government is not able to solve this because there's not a shift away from nuclear power. It's simply a step back. That was the cross application in the 1AR. Means it does not solve our internal links are not just the government is bad. Our internal links is the way we understand nuclear power is bad. Every part in the app says that, but the decline and core cross application was specific in the 1AR, which means risk of solvency. You vote after the counterplan. The work that does not solve the app was already done above, which means there's no external advantage to the counterplan. There's no offense here for you. Say there's a tiebreaker between the warming dissent and the app, but we have already given reasons why we have solved at least marginally, which means that there's not a tiebreaker. It's just a question of weighing the app against the warming dissent. So the warming dissent, a couple of key framing issues here. The first is you say vote on what scientists think, but the decline weighing was conceded that you should care about sort of cultural problems over empirical problems because they determine what will happen in the future, not just what's happened in the past. The argument is that empirically there has been a cultural broad shift towards renewables and not towards coal in Denmark and Germany, which means that this is more relevant to the question of what will happen in the future. Next, you say intermittency, but our Wasserman evidence already answers this. The reason that intermittency is not a problem is because the batteries allow for kinds of variable types of power throughout the day that solve intermittency. That is within the Wasserman evidence. It also says that we're able to shift to 100% renewables within the near future. future. It says it's technologically and economically feasible, which means that your disadvantage just falls. All of this was in the Washington evidence. It was explained in the 1AR. The white evidence says that batteries do not work, but these are about normal car batteries. Our argument is that industry heads, for example, Tesla and the underlying text says other industries are developing these kinds of batteries that can be used on a larger scale, which means just normal, like Toyota Camry car batteries are not what we're talking about. It also means the white evidence, it does not make any sense. This does not reference the kinds of batteries we're talking about. Lastly, the plumber evidence, you say it references empirics, but you conceded the weighing that says you should prefer the Wasserman empirics as well as the Klein empirics from people who are experts in these subjects as opposed to a random Vox writer, because they're more qualified to talk about this. It means there's no risk of warming. The last problem that you conceded is that the cross-medication Wasserman evidence is that nuclear power cannot resolve warming. This was tagged as an impact turn in the 1AR that was conceded, that you think that nuclear power is a super great thing that's going to solve all warming. But that is a huge myth. The Wasserman evidence says it is dirty and dangerous, that it cannot do anything for warming, which means that all you do is reproduce the kinds of impacts of the app and do not actually ever solve warming, which means it outweighs your guess that because you don't have an impact, whereas we do, it is an impact turn.
The F has a risk of offense. You conceded an impact turn to like your scenario. It's not that warming doesn't exist. It's that nuclear power doesn't do anything. Just doing to the disadvantage.